Hi, Assalamualaikum and good morning everyone. So today I would like to cover on non-verbal communication topic. So this is week 8 topic for EPC 460. So let's embark into this journey together. Okay, so I would like to cover on definition of non-verbal communication as well as major channel for non-verbal communication. Alright, so non-verbal communication is an area of psychology that examine behavior that allow both the sending, mashallah, and receiving of information. Definitely, when it comes to communication, at least we are going to have two-way communication, whereby the other one is going to be the sender and the other interlocutors is going to be our receiver. And non-verbal communication is somehow important because it will make the information transmitted from the sender to the receiver better, right? Okay, so this can provide extra information to verbal communication and may supplement or negate verbal messages. Definitely, like I mentioned just now, sometimes it is good for us to supplement our verbal communication, verbal language with non-verbal language, for example, facial expression, hand gestures, because it can provide extra information. What kind of extra information? Maybe it can comes in the sense of emotion, all right, in the sense of emotion. And like I mentioned previously, all right, in week 2 if I'm not mistaken, non-verbal communication is the transfer of information through body language, facial expression, gestures, created space, right? So maybe while smiling during the conversation, it somehow convey that you are a friendly person, all right, and it is also convey that you are open to the subject discussed. Okay. All right, and then there are 5 major channels of nonverbal behavior that assist in communication. These are the 5 major major channel for nonverbal communication or nonverbal behavior, but I have listed several. I do hope that you could somehow try to understand and try to remember all those terms, because it will be somehow come out for your test in week 10. We are now in week 8. You have like 2 more weeks to do your revision, and you will sit for your first test on week 10. Okay, they are paralanguage, kinesthetic, proxemic, facial expression, and visual behavior. So let's take a look at the first major channel of nonverbal behavior, which is paralanguage. So here, it can be said that paralanguage is the information conveyed in the vocal, nonverbal aspect of speech, such as yawn or sigh, right? How am I supposed to say? Paralanguage refers to the conveyance of meaning through non-lexical tokens, such as right, or well, okay. So this is what we call as, sometimes we said this is one of the example of fillers, right? Sometimes when you present, you lost the train of words, so you're going to use fillers in order for you to try to find the words, all right, to supplement your presentation. Okay, and then spoken variables such as intensity, pitch, tempo, regional accent, and speech disturbance are considered paralanguage. Sometimes when you would like to press on something, when you would like to stress on an important details, so you are going to stress on that particular word. So that is one of the example of paralanguage. Okay. All right. The next one is kinesthetic. I believe that you have heard about kinesthetic before. So kinesthetic refer to all discernible bodily movement and gestures, with exception to facial expression and eye movement. So it is somehow refers to any movement, all right? However, facial expression and eye movements are not included in kinesthetic. Okay, emphasis gestures are kinesthetic movement that are directly translatable words like a wave, right? Sometimes when you wave to your friend, it means that you say hi, or maybe you just would like to say goodbye, see you again. All right. Comfort gestures indicate an emotional state and are directed toward the body. A confused person scratching their head. Sometimes when you are actually in the class, for me, for example, when I ask you a question and you start to somehow scratching your head, I understand that you are actually in the middle of having confusion, all right, and you need me to explain more on that particular topic, for example. So that is one of the example of kinesthetic. All right. So kinesthetic also include posture adjustment and movement through space. Sometimes when you would like to listen, and when you are interested to listen to the mashallah, to the lecture, all right, you will sit straight and try to listen to my lecture that well. Sometimes I can see from your face that you are not interested to listen to any of the discussion, any of the ideas discussed on that particular day. All right. So yeah, kinesthetic involve movement. However, facial expression and eye movement are not included in kinesthetic. Okay, and then the next one is facial expression. I believe that you know what is facial expression. So facial expression may be the most important channel for nonverbal communication and are helpful for displaying emotion or mood. That's why I love to see. Sometimes I like you to smile during my lecture in class, because it somehow transmit the emotion that you are happy, that you are okay on that particular day. It will somehow make the class more open. All right, I know that you are ready to discuss on whatever question asked during the class hour. All right, so this is in part to the intricate muscle of the face and allowing for various and distinct facial expression. Sometimes you smile, all right, and then because when you smile, like we discussed previously, it shows that you are open, all right, you are open to discuss on that particular day. But sometimes when I feel that the emotion is not somehow transmitted that well, because you need to remember that we are the instructors. We have been teaching for more than 10 years. Sometimes we can somehow feel that you are not ready. All right, hence it is good for you when you would like to come to class, you get ready at the first place. And when you somehow in the class, we can be open and try to discuss on any topic clearly on that day. All right. Okay, and then space. All right, the space between object and people. Okay, the object can be the object as well as the other interlocutors. All right, space is often associated with a social rank and is an important part of business communication. For example, who gets the corner office? Why is the head of the table important? And who get to sit there? I remember watching Suit. I can remember the other one. Harvey, for example, somehow sacrificed his room to his friend. I can remember. Maybe you remember that one. Okay. All right. So people from diverse culture may have different normative space expectation. If you are from a large urban area, okay, having people stand close to you may be normal. If you are from a rural area or culture where people expect more space, someone may be standing too close for comfort and not know it. Definitely. All right. Sometimes when we are actually at the urban area, we usually have a very, you know, it is okay for us to have a very limited space. For example, in a train. However, when you come from a rural area, we usually have, how am I supposed to say? We usually have more space, I guess. We don't have trained at the rural area, for example. We don't somehow travel using train to work in rural area. We usually use our own transport, hence we have our own close proximity. But however, when it comes to a urban area, usually in order for us to avoid traffic jam, all right, we use train, and hence the area is somehow limited. Okay. All right. The next one is time. Okay. Do you know what time is it? How aware you are of time varies by culture and normative expectation of adherence or ignorance of time. Some people and the communities and culture they represent are very time oriented. Last few days, I have a meeting with a friend of mine from UK. All right. She asked me, no, uh, uh, I she asked me, what time is it in Malaysia right now? And I said it's 5:30 in the morning, and she was like, "Oh my goodness, what are you doing at 5:30?" I said, "I cannot sleep. I cannot sleep. So I need to do something. I have a lot of works to do, and I would like to check on my students' assignment and everything." And she was like, we are waiting. We are actually just completed our subuh. Kan? I was like, oh, kita tak subuh lagi. So she said, our subuh is that long, from 5:30 to 8:30. And I was like, oh my goodness, we are not that long. We're going to start our subuh around 5:45, and then by 7, we cannot somehow perform subuh at subuh anymore. Alright, it's already pagi. And then she was like, oh, we have like 2.5 hours for subuh. However, when it comes to Zohor and Asar, we have only 1 hour to complete those two solat. And I was like, lajunya. Alright, okay, so that's time. Okay, sometimes it is good for you to understand the other culture. Alright, the time varies. It is good for you to understand this, because when it comes to presentation, when it comes to meeting with the other people from the other country, we can somehow respect their time. Alright, okay. And then the next one is physical characteristic. Alright, you did not choose your gene. Okay, your eye color, the natural color of your hair, of your height, but people spend millions every year trying to change their physical characteristic. Okay, excuse me. You can get colored contacts, dye your hair, and if you are shorter, then you would like to buy shoes to raise your sachet of a couple of inches. Alright, definitely when it comes to physical characteristic, we cannot change of our genes, even though we wish that our eyes is going to be that blue, green and everything, but because we are Asian, usually we are going to have dark brown eyes, for example. Okay, right, the next one is touch. Right, so before giving a presentation, you may interact with the people by shaking hands, making casual conversation. Sometimes in a meeting, during in your working place, right? In your working place, it is good for you to interact with your interlocutors, with the people around, by shaking hands or making casual conversation, what we call as small talk. Small talk, maybe what you can do is saying hi everyone, Assalamualaikum, how are you today? Alright, how's the match yesterday night, contohnya, right? This is one of the example of small talk. You somehow do the small talk in order for you to be comfortable with the surrounding. Alright, so this conversation can help establish trust before you take the stage. Alright, once on stage, most people do not touch audience member physically, but you can interact with audience member through visual aids, note cards and other objects. Yeah, definitely when it comes to presentation, it is good for you to have visual aids, notes card, props, for example. Alright, this will make your presentation more colorful, and then your audience would be that interested to listen more to the presentation. Because sometimes when you are alone on the stage, and you do not have prop and everything, you need to make sure that you kill the presentation, maybe by using a great attention getter. When you would like to start the conversation, you should have attention getter. So maybe you can use a very you can somehow kill the presentation by using a very good attention getter. For example, asking question, apa lagi, using idioms, right? Or maybe sharing anecdote. All right, and then the next one is artifacts. Okay, so artifacts actually a form of decorative ornamentation that are chosen to represent self-concept. For example, tattoo, right? They can include rings and tattoo, but may also include brand names and logo. All right, from clothes to car, watches, briefcase, purses, and even eyeglasses. What we can choose to surround ourselves with communicates something about ourselves, our sense of self. Sometimes, for example, I am one of the youngest fellow in UITM, and the Center of Innovative Delivery and Learning Development. We are working for Timbalan Chancellor, HEA, UITM. Right, so I bring the brand names and logos whenever I go for our meeting. I will bring this name and logos. Even I have a name card, right? And people know me for, yes, you are Diana, you are the fellow of CG 360 collaborative group, 360 degree videos. And then I have my what does it call, I have my team members. We have 7 of us. All right, so whenever I go to present something, I bring the name of collaborative teaching, all right, collaborative group 360 CIDL, for example. Okay, and then for example, if sometimes you have some friends with tattoo, all right, maybe they would like to tattoo the name of their parents, or somehow this somehow bring the brand names, the family names. Okay, and then from clothes to car, sometimes you know that your friends they are a very how am I supposed, their favorite clothes brand would be Polo Ralph Lauren, for example. So yep, this is somehow when you see her, you know that okay, this girl that love Polo Ralph Lauren. So yeah, from up to toe, semua Polo Ralph Lauren, for example, right? So this is somehow communicate something about you, all right? When people see you, people know that this is you, all right? So it somehow communicates something about our sense of self, right? So artifact may project gender, role or position, class or status, personality and group membership or affiliation. Paying attention to a customer's artifact can give you a sense of the self they want to communicate and may allow you to more accurately adapt your message to meet their needs. For example, like I mentioned just now, I'm one of the fellow for UITM. When I go to any event, people will ask me, Cik D datang sebagai fellow 360 atau Cik D datang mewakili APB. So I mentioned that saya datang mewakili fellow. Saya datang sebagai fellow. Kawan saya datang sebagai delegasi daripada APB. So they will somehow bring me to the other table to be with the other fellows. If I come as an APB members, and they will bring me to other table, alright, to be with the other instructors, for example. So that's how you bring yourself. That's how you bring your brand names, the artifacts. Okay. Sometimes we can see, sometimes we cannot see, because sometimes when it comes to artifact, it somehow share you the form of decorative ornamentation. They are chosen to represent self-concept. I will not bring my card everywhere, but I have my pictures somewhere in HEA office. So when people go there, people know me of that particular artifacts. Hence, when I go everywhere to attend any event, they will ask me whether I come to represent APB or to represent my center, for example. All right. Okay, and then the next one we have environment. Okay, environment involves the physical and psychological aspect of the communication context. Excuse me. More than the tables and chair in an office, environment is an important part of the dynamic communication process. The perception of one's environment influences one reaction to it, definitely. When it comes to environment, you need to make sure that your environment is that positive, so that you are going to be that positive to present yourself. Sometimes when you are not in a when you are actually a negative, when you have the negative vibe in your environment in class, for example, you cannot perform that well. So please make sure that if you cannot have the positive environment, you are going to be the one who somehow share the positive environment with the other friends. Help the other friends in your class, help your classmates. Sometimes they are struggling with their own life. It is good for us to help everyone in the class, right? So environments involve the physical and psychological aspect of the communication context. Sometimes it is good for you to ask your friends around, how are you today? Is there anything that we can help? But if you cannot help, it is good for you to at least ask about their well-being. Okay, and then we have non-verbal communication can play 5 roles. So we have somehow covered the channel of non-verbal communication. Now we're moving to the 5 roles of non-verbal communication. Number 1 is repetition. When it comes to repetition, non-verbal communication, somehow it repeats and often strengthen the message you are making verbally. Definitely, you have somehow said that particular ideas verbally, and the non-verbal communication is going to be supplement your verbal communication, and it will somehow strengthen the message you are making verbally. The next one is contradiction. All right, when it comes to contradiction, it can contradict the message you are trying to convey, thus indicating to your listeners that you may not be telling the truth. Because when you contradict, you somehow deny the truth by asserting the opposite, right? And then we have substitution. You can substitute for a verbal message. For example, your facial expression often conveys a far more vivid message than words ever can. Sometimes when you would like to compliment somebody, but your facial expression is not parallel with whatever that you are saying at that time, right? And then the next one is complimenting. It may add or complement your verbal message. As a boss, for example, if you pat an employee on the back in addition to giving praise, it can increase the impact of your message. Okay, like I mentioned previously, I have 7 members in my team. All right. So during we are going to have programs every month, like 2 programs per month, for example. So every time we have program, I will ask them to I will somehow divide tasks. At the end of the day, what you can do is to say, job well done, everyone, job well done. It somehow can increase the impact of your message. And sometimes because I cannot pat them on the back because we are everywhere, what I can do is to send them emojis. Sometimes they like emojis so much, they would like we are going to have like 3 or 5 times exchanging emojis. All right. And then the last one is assenting. You may assent or underline a verbal message. Pounding the table, for example, can underline the importance of your message. Yes. All right. Okay, the next one is the importance of non-verbal communication. We have somehow discussed about this a few weeks ago. All right, the importance of non-verbal communication. So the first one is expressing our emotion, like we discussed previously. Sometimes we use non-verbal communication to supplement our message. It shows emotions such as happy, satisfied, confident, surprise, and many more. Okay. Number 2, communication interpersonal relationship. Through interpersonal communication, we can establish trust in relationship and help determine a person fidelity. Yes, definitely. Like we mentioned previously, sometimes in a workplace we pat our employee and it can somehow increase their how am I supposed to say, it can somehow make them happy, all right, and it can somehow increase the productivity of that particular day, for example. Okay, so and these are possible only through using verbal and non-verbal communication mode, all right. Interpersonal communication includes communication that occurs with our words and through our tone of voice, posture, and facial expression, right. Sometimes when you would like to talk to the students, for example, yeah, it is depending on what happened on that particular day. If you are that good, then I will somehow say good job everyone. If you are late to submit the assignment, the tone is going to be a bit different, correct? Okay, the next one is non-verbal communication is main supporter of verbal interaction. We have discussed about this many times. It supplement your verbal communication, all right. Okay, the next one is non-verbal communication also reflect individual personality. It define personality through judging the facially expressed emotion and behavior. That's why it is good for you to also focus on the facial expression, right? The behavior of your friends. Sometimes they can't somehow mention to you verbally because they don't want to hurt your feeling, for example, but you can somehow see, you can somehow it can you sometimes the facial expression can somehow explain the emotion that you have at that time. Right, the next one is non-verbal communication plays greater roles in performing rituals such as greeting and goodbyes. Wave, for example, right? Sometimes when you wave, you would like to say hi. Sometimes wave can somehow explain that you are actually saying goodbye, you are having another class and you are on the go, all right. The smile, we smile as soon as we see someone we recognize from distance. Distance. Itself tell a lot about importance of non-verbal communication. Yeah, definitely. Wave, smile, all right. And when you are sad, for example, we can feel the emotion because your face somehow shows that you are sad on that particular day. Semalam tak ada dating ke, I'm not sure. Alright, and then spatial communication. Alright, spatial communication. So this area of non-verbal communication also referred as proxemic. Remember the first slide just now, we talked about proxemic. Alright, look at how physical space, alright, or personal space can impact communication. In terms of establishing more power, one may increase the proximity or perhaps infiltrate the subordinate space, but not the other way around. Let's take a look at what is spatial communication. Okay, for example, in Saudi Arabia, space bubbles are very small. Okay, even while interacting with strangers, most greeting constitute a kiss on the cheek. All right, when it comes to spatial communication, this is actually referred to how physical space, all right, physical space that we're having right now can impact communication. We look at the example in Saudi Arabia. Space bubble are very small because when they see people, even they are strangers, all right, the greeting somehow constitute a kiss on the cheek. So the personal space, the physical space is somehow very close, all right. The proximity is that close. However, when finding a seat in a classroom or on the subway, Americans will situate themselves in a way that leave much room between themselves and the next closest person. In high context culture, however, people tend to sit closer to one another, and that closeness during conversation is a necessity. For example, for our Malaysian, we usually shake hands, alright. We shake hands with apa kita panggil, our with the people that are older than us, for example, okay, with the same gender, all right. But we are not usually constitute a kiss on the cheek. We are not usually do that, okay. But sometimes yes, it depending on who we see on that particular day. Alright. So it is considered rude in interaction to sit or stand far away from the other person, no matter the level of relationship between those two parties. All right. So here, spatial communication is how physical space can impact communication. Physical space. This is us. Okay, me myself. So this is my physical space. All right. Sometimes, for our Malaysian, it is depending on who we would like to interact on that particular day. I usually shake hands when I see, when I would like to have a presentation, for example. But if I would like to say goodbye, all right, we can somehow have this, hearts moment and everything, all right, and we somehow kiss on the cheek. It is depending on who, it is depending on the occasion, for example. Okay, and then the next one is temporal communication. All right, this aspect of non-verbal communication also called chronomics. Just now we have learned about spatial. It is referred as proxemic. However, for temporal communication, it is called as chronomics. It is look at the study of time and the tempo of a culture. So it's involved time and tempo of a culture. Okay, so time can be considered either monochromic or polychromic. Okay, culture that behave on monochromic time focus. Okay, culture that behave on monochromic time focus on only doing one thing at a time. Mono, one. Okay, mono, one. Culture that behave on monochromic time focus on only doing one thing at a time. Okay, there is more on an emphasis of compartmentalizing function and people. Okay, polychronic, however, cultures enjoy being involved with many things at once and with a great involvement with people. Okay, mono, only doing one thing at a time. Meanwhile, polychronic cultures involved with many things at once and with a great involvement with people. Okay, as we could tell through interaction with Saudi Arabian students, American tended to focus more on the task at hand than the general conversation. So this is actually a study conducted by Hall and Hall, right? American, they tend to focus more on the task at hand, alright, than the general conversation. So we wanted to make sure we check each discussion question off of our list and may not have felt accomplished if we caught off tangent. It took us only a few interaction, however, to understand that high and low context culture have different concept of time. Alright, once as American look at the conversation as a way to get another person to know another person and their culture rather than crossing an item off a list, we were able to better divert our attention onto that single issue and therefore have different interaction in the process. So here, when it comes to temporal communication, this is a study conducted by Hall and Hall. All right, I'll try to find the year because this is actually prepared by the team. All right, when it comes to temporal communication, usually American students, all right, they tend to focus more on a task at hand than the general conversation. But when it comes to Saudi Arabian students, most of the times they can somehow do two things at the same times. I used to teach at Management Science University a long time ago. I remember having Saudi Arabian students in the class. They can somehow answer tests while having conversation with the friends. But the conversation is not about the test. They can somehow discuss about what they would like to bring home to Saudi Arabia, alright? Or maybe I remember one of them somehow discussed about World Cup at that time, five years ago. Alright, so yes, Saudi Arabian students, they can somehow focus on many things at the same time. So this is the example of polychronic culture. However, when it comes to American, they tend to focus on the task at hand than the general conversation. So they are actually a monochronic culture. They can only focus on one thing. Alright, so T, and that's all. Okay, that's all. Please somehow listen and watch this video many times, because like I mentioned previously, you are going to sit for your test on week 10. Okay, on week 10, the first test. I'm still waiting for Dr. Mazlin to inform us whether the test is going to be face to face or online. All right, I will inform you later. So thank you very much.